Yeah.
Yep, it's very good.
Yeah, whenever you're ready.
Okay.
Huh?
All right. That's good.
It's time to call the work session in order. Awesome. Right, at this time, we'll call the work session to order. It's December 19th, 2024. The time is 4:30. Oh, 4:36 p.m. It's really that late. All right. There's not much on the agenda tonight. Any questions about agenda items? I know that there's been an email exchange regarding the if you want to come up regarding the relinquishing of submachine guns at the city of Plattsburgh. City PD own. Who knows why they own a bunch of automatic weapons, but we're trying to get rid of them. So I'll turn it over to Lieutenant Pond and have a conversation about that process and the validity of that process.
So in order to lessen our inventory and our accountability for plethora of unused platforms in our arms room, I suggest it's my firearms guys. Let's try to find a means to dispose of these items properly. We have a total of 14 UMP submachine guns from when we used to have a special response team at the Plattsburgh PD. And those platforms haven't been in circulation for at least 5 years. And currently they're not the best practice to put them in use for patrol. They are fully automatic machine guns. And it would also require a lot of training for us to be able to get our people up to a level of competency that would be comfortable to employ them in the community. However, I see them as not being the best practice for our officers to have full autos. It'd be more beneficial to us in the community to have newer semi-automatic rifles that are precise and allow for better round countability. Also, we have a number of other firearms in our arms room that are not utilized. They're just been stored there for several years. And I also want to clean out that inventory as well. And we reached out to several companies. They lacked interest. One company only came back to us, and that was Seek Arms. And through ATF and FFL regulations, we figured out what we can do with these machine guns. Essentially, as soon as they leave our possession, the receivers have to be destroyed and cut in half, and that has to be documented. And that documentation has to be submitted to ATF and FFL regulatories. And the parts can be sold to other law enforcement agencies. That is the semi-automatic parts portion. Things such as the automatic sear have to be destroyed along with the receiver of the machine guns. So we worked out a comparable deal with Seek Arms. They also gave us a rifle for demo that we were concerned for trade. Actually, they showed us 4 rifles. This was the most value for our department, and also it made the most sense. And that's where we're at for this. And any questions on this? Anything?
Y'all had some questions over email. Y'all got questions now?
Maybe we got our questions answered over email.
Did you? Okay.
That's it in a nutshell. I think it's pretty well outlined. If anyone has questions on the road, I'm more than happy to answer them.
Actually, I have one. How much are the new guns each?
New guns each were. That was on the documentation. for the exchange. Essentially, they're approximately $900 a piece.
Is that before or after all the little bells and whistles are added?
No, that's just for everything that's necessary for them to function. To go out immediately on.
And this is coming out of what, Mayor? Oh,
It would come out of the value of the trade-in products that we have outlined in the deal. So it'd be a $0 expense. It'd break even. That's part of the reason why.
Okay.
We went this route.
thank you.
Anyone else?
And we had planned on talking about the budget, but the only three of us here, we're probably not going to go down that road, so. I don't know if any departments had any reports you wanted to give or anything, I don't know. I don't-
The ones that were in, the previous.
I don't, nobody else does.
Sure, why not? Why not?
Okay. Any questions specific, Ms. Cal?
This is a picture of the. Okay, so. I don't have any in specific, but, they're supposed to be, like. Lighter weight or better, like, for like the equipment.
So the idea is to move all of it, so. Best practice, industry standards. 90% of the state department, municipal police departments in the state of New York have gone to a Class B. Profile of one select product or another, essentially, which includes an exterior carrier to move handcuffs. Defensive spray, tasers up onto the carrying vest. The ballistic carrying vest, in order to take the weight off of the hips of the officers. And they've also switched to, instead of the leather Sam Brown belts from the 1950s, they have opted to go to more nylon material, which is lighter and has more flexibility. And that's what we're kind of proposing at this point, to get caught up with the times and what other departments are doing, as what is now becoming a common standard for a Class B unit. And it's something that a lot of our officers feel very strongly about. They want a more functional uniform for when they're out on the road, collecting evidence. Attempting to make arrests of suspects, running after persons. Dealing with the animals in the community that we have to take into custody. All these things, they just want a more comfortable form. functional
Active wear,
uniform.
kinda.
Yeah,
Okay.
and it's,
So this is what you want to go to, is this right here?
it's essentially that the equipment that was on the belt was supposed to be moved up to the vest.
Okay, yeah,
Um,
that makes sense.
and it's navy blue. As typical and tradition for any municipal police department, it's always been navy blue, because that was what the surplus was available from the military in the time when municipal police departments started sprouting up everywhere. So that's where that tradition comes from. And I talked to my defense tactics personnel and my firearms personnel, and we agreed on a setup of keeping the gun and magazines on the belt itself for defensive tactics and patrol reasons. And then moving everything up, less lethal and radios, everything up on the vest. And also allows the officer during the summer, when they come back to the department, they can take off the vest. Dry off from their perspiration. And when it's time to go back on the road, they put on their vest and go conduct their duties in our community. Also, offers another. Point too, it gives me an opportunity to check to make sure officers are wearing their body armor.
Hmm.
Because now I can visually see it, it would be very obvious when officers go out in the community if they don't have their body armor on. Alright, and that's another check that
Right.
helps us manage things. Also, it's just a more practical uniform. Our defense tactic, well, actually, our firearms curriculum just took a sudden change in DCJS. They're requiring now municipal police departments to do a time portion in our academy. And if it's a pass fail, if they don't make it, they flunk out of the academy. There's not anything we can do to alleviate that. It's a DCJS requirement. And it's a pretty strict curriculum. And that also allows us to change from this orientation of magazine, which requires me to unsnap, then pull, then load.
Mhm.
Versus this new equipment, it's a top load, so it just comes straight out and goes straight into the magazine well. And it actually does save time on the qualification. Also, the lowering of the holster also allows officers to draw from a seated position in the vehicle. Which also offers tactical advantages. We didn't go willy-nilly with this, we've been working on this with Chief Mitchell for over a year. To come up with something that looks appropriate for our officers and functions appropriately.
And presentable in the community. I mean,
Absolutely, this is our Class A uniform right now, this is what we use for our ceremony and everything, and our duties. However, we would reserve this for special details, work, and. You know, anything else that seems appropriate for the use of formal wear. We would not get rid of this uniform, we would just pare it down to one set. And essentially, we would. Up the number of pieces we purchase every year for the Class B uniform. Still maintaining within the parameters of the contract, because the contract says slabs, doesn't specify if they're Class A or Class B, so there's some leeway there, and the cost is comparable. Except for when you look at the wear and tear of these uniforms become unsurfaceable much faster than the uniforms we're proposing. And we definitely had one set for the entire year of this. And it was still very serviceable and it had no signs of fading or falling apart.
or no wear on the sides
Yeah.
of the,
Well, this-
I've been
From
from
where the-
officers since 2016. I've equipped these officers with everything that they've needed. I replace pants quite frequently because they're just really not practical in certain scenarios.
Hmm.
They split at the seams, they get dirty fast. The material pills a lot on the sides. Once they do that, they look unprofessional in the community. These new ones really held up well, and as you can see in the picture, they're collared. They still look professional. They're still cuffed for the polo. You know, it really has a professional look, only you're moving the undercarrier to the outer carrier so they can get rid of that load on their body and.
And we drop the width of the belts too, which makes it easier to bend over and articulate their bodies. Also, every sheriff department around us, Franklin County, Essex County, Clinton County has a variation of the same uniform we're proposing. Saranac Lake PD has an outer carrier setup and cargo pants. I'm not even proposing cargo pants. They'll have a hidden zipper pocket that will prevent them from overfilling it with bulky items and making the uniform look slovenly. So that's the reason why we want this setup. We would like to maintain our professional appearance in our department and our community, and we're just moving towards a more practical setup.
And in these discussions, we've also spoke with the police chief at the campus and kind of asked his advice on what they moved to and what their officers are wearing, and you know, took all that into consideration as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah, UPD has an outer carrier now. New York State Police, I have a good authority from the major that they're demoing an outer carrier. They're gonna be going to a similar equipment setup.
The vest is under their shirt, right?
Correct. And they got a very direct, and it's very hard for them to make a change. But the fact that they're actually demoing an outer carrier to help their recruitment efforts, because that is kind of like the expectation of a lot of young officers coming on the job of the more cooler equipment. You know, the tactical, they say, but
Yeah,
there's that expectation from a lot of the younger officers of an updated uniform. And we've had unanimous support in our patrol unit when they voted for it. It was everybody but one officer didn't want it.
I think
that speaks for itself.
I like them, so.
I like functionality. I'm a practical man. I like practicality. And if it looks good at the same time, that's awesome for me. And if we can make that balance, I like that. And that's why I kind of endorsed this. And I wanted to see this project to the finish. Like I said, we've been doing this for like a year. We tested multiple pieces of equipment. I did not like some of the stuff they sent us. It sucked and bottom line, and we had to reconvene and change some of the materials, some of the vendors. You know, and like I said, other agencies have done this, Albany, Rochester, Utica, Syracuse, Buffalo, they all have a variation of this uniform.
Albany is.
They switched years ago.
Yeah.
And I just saw a gentleman, a lieutenant from St. Lawrence County. They just switched to an outer carrier setup with cargo pants. They just switched their road patrol this year for that. And they said that it was all because the officers had pushed it up. It was a morale issue for them. And they wanted something more comfortable if they're gonna be working all these hours of overtime because they're short staffed.
And it's really valuable to all of our officers that are on the road, for them to give up their clothing allowance to make it no cost to the city at all.
Yeah.
'Cause they, I mean, they
And-
want it, they understand it's expensive and they're willing to incur that cost themselves to upgrade and move on.
It's not very often a union will give up money,
Hmm.
even if it's just for a one-time purchase. That's pretty, I think it speaks for itself.
Yeah, how much it means to them to have this, so we hope that you guys consider it and. The other thing I would just like to go back to on the rifles, and all that, is our current rifles are end of life. So that means that if we can't move forward on this and do the trade, that means that. In the following year's budget, we're gonna have to budget for new rifles.
For modification of parts, which
Yeah.
are gonna count essentially the same cost as what a rifle platform would be. And I'm not talking expensive rifle, but like Daniel Defense. Talking same numbers of like around $900 per rifle. But if I had to buy upper receivers, those are approximately about $650 a piece. And that's essentially what we would have to replace in every rifle, if we don't have to touch the lower end somewhat.
So that's the platform you're using on that, the Daniel Defense?
No,
Rifles?
oh,
What
God.
rifles are you talking about?
Like
What's
it-
the platform?
We currently use Bushmasters, but it's an older model. It has the top carrying handle like an M16. Problem is years ago when they purchased them, they didn't have the forethought to get ones that had a top rail system like the current military did at the time. So the optics couldn't be mounted appropriately on the top rail. They're on the handguard, which makes them less accurate, which makes me upset because I didn't like accuracy. I retrained for accuracy. I'm a firearms instructor. So, and round accountability is a big thing for me. If they're not accurate, that means there's potential, we have an issue in a real life situation.
Yeah, I find that incredibly cheap for, assault type weapon. You're talking $900, you don't get much.
And we demoed the variations that they gave us. We put over 1,500 rounds through one of them. And we had no issues with the function. I mean, that platform's been around for a long time,
And
so.
what is it? What brand?
It's a Seek Arms platform. It's essentially it's custom built. It's a combination of several parts. It's really only three manufacturers of,
So it's not a mainstream,
no.
right?
Well, if we go mainstream, we do incur more costs and we're trying to make the trade to make it new budget neutral. Because I don't like to have to spend the extra money on it. Because it's not a priority, it won't be a priority at this moment. Because
Well, to be clear, I know you spent a lot of time describing uniforms and things, but I have to go back to, these were not properly approved. There was a contract changed. It was not approved by the council, and I would not be voting for this
I
because of
understand,
that.
I understand.
Not
sir.
because of, I think they look good, but it was not done properly. State law says, the Taylor law does not say, it says that it has to be approved by the legislative body. And our charter says it has to be approved by the council. So
So.
what, they went around how it should be done.
And that was
Very much
not,
against that.
and that was not my intention. I was following the guidelines that I was given.
Okay, and I'm not blaming anybody. I'm just saying it was
What would
not
be the
properly
proper
approved.
way
It's a
to-
contract change and it needed to be approved by the council.
So
Just saying, and I'm not picking on your choice here or anything, but I'm just saying it was not done properly and it's gonna have to be straightened out.
I understand this, Mark.
Like you guys, appreciate what you do. Not a problem with that at all. It's not anything to do with you, it's to do with us.
moving
I get
forward,
that.
how would we move this forward from?
Well, a contract change, it would have to be approved by the council.
Okay.
Because it is a contract change. And it is undefined as far as the cost of it. I know everybody's saying it comes out even. I would want to see that in contract language, like there's gonna be no additional money provided by the city to
Over the
get the
following
new
years.
uniforms. Yes, exactly. We
Okay.
have, and it can be done, but it needs to be done properly.
Understood.
And I've done a lot of research on this and I know I'm right. And it's not, like I said, nothing to do with you guys. It's us.
Okay, I just wanna make.
Yes,
we
it
take
can
the
be
proper
taken care
steps
of at
to
some point.
Move forward, just does mean a lot to.
I won't be there to do it. It can get straightened out very easily.
All right, anything else?
Well, thank you for taking the time to explain all that and the
they
uniforms,
don't.
and we're not voting on the uniforms tonight, so we don't need to
Yeah,
worry about
okay.
that. It's just that, but thank you so much for taking the time to explain that.
Thank you,
Appreciate it.
guys.
Any questions about items on the agenda?
There's traffic zone thing, that's something that will come up at a future.
Traffic zone designations, as council should know, is a active vote to negate the traffic designation zone, but this is cleaning up the previous traffic designation zone on Grace Avenue.
Okay, so we're not doing any voting on this
Correct.
tonight. Okay, okay.
The revising the capital project for the WRF mitigation.
Yep.
Just kind of curious what the 8 million is for.
It's the revised contract, and Janelle can talk to this probably more intelligently than I can. The revised amount is based on the engineer's estimate for the increase of the $2 million increase. I believe that's combined with the WIA program grant funding, correct? Yeah. Which would account for that $8.8 million difference.
Yes, so with the grant funding, we have approximately 5.3 million left. We haven't released the project out to bid yet. We're waiting for EFTC to give us the green light. However, the engineer's estimate of what it could cost could go up approximately $2 million from that. So what Richard and I have discussed is setting up that as a capital project. It doesn't commit us necessarily to spending $2 million. And, you know, it's just kind of one step in the process for allowing us to go out to bid and to start to pay for those items to be repaired.
I lost track of it. What is this project exactly for?
So we were given a sum of money from EFC as a 3-part project. The first part was our dewatering process that we refined by installing 2 new belt filter presses. The second portion of the funding we devoted to disinfection and odor control at work. And now this is the last part. And the third part is improving the structure and the architectural the facades on the outside of the building to make it more presentable to the public.
That's kind of what I was interested in, yeah, what it was going for.
Yes, so the design is complete and we did take a lot of items that are considered add-ons. So it's not necessarily part of there's the basic bid specs and then there's add-ons. If all of the add-ons were to come in at $2 million, this would allow us to be able to use some money in our reserve to pay for those add-ons. Nothing has been agreed upon yet. We're just waiting for EFC to allow us to even go to bid.
The total change to that project is 7.3 million. It was 1.5 million. Now it's 8.8. 5.3 million is coming from EFC that we have funding, and the other 2 million is the project. and that's stemming from the capital reserve.
That's a bond, correct?
No. It's a grant.
Yes, it would be a loan that EFC
Yeah.
would go out and set serial bonds in place for with 0%.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry.
Would be a bond.
The
That's what I
two,
thought.
sorry, the $2 million, the $2 million extra, sorry, is coming from the capital, from reserve funds, not bullet.
And if you guys can recall, we moved 2 million already out of the sewer operating fund into the capital reserve, probably about a month and a half ago. And that capital reserve is up to almost 12 million. So we're stockpiling quite a bit of cash. Now that's what it's for, was to spend it on. So
Yeah, the middle part of that was that disinfection building, correct?
Yes, and the odor control.
It looks sort of like some of the plans and stuff with the cosmetic improvements.
Yeah, so it's
That's-
mostly all facade work. It's kind of it matches in some ways the new disinfection building in the front, but from the back, it's kind of, how would I describe it? There's more wood and rock type facade fixtures, make it look more like the natural environment from the lake.
Between the river and the east side.
Yes, yes. And if I could also add, we also have some confirmation from Empire State Development that we can get approximately 758,000 back from them as part of downtown revitalization money that was distributed. So we're pursuing that as well, which would offset the 2 million.
that would be additional grant funding for this project.
Yes, yes,
And the 5.3 million is the rough estimate of the additional architecture,
yes.
design and waterfront presentation. plan.
Correct.
Thank you.
And that
Thank
was all
you.
right.
I'm really
After-
excited about this project. I think that it will help us in the community to put a new fresh face on that part of our city.
Yeah, I agree. When John first started doing it and he had formed that little committee, I was on that. And he had so many plans drawn up, so many hopes. And so, yeah, it is exciting.
And it's to get rid of noise, odor control, and also, sound better facade.
Yep,
And better appearance.
absolutely.
So that'll wrap up this capital project, correct?
Yes, this is the third stage,
I
third
I
and
know you
final.
mentioned about how many we had out
20
before.
Yes, we have 21 right now. Just
Still?
one of them.
Oh.
This is one.
You don't want too many hanging out there.
We had 120 last year, we closed down. And so we're trying to keep just a modest number of the moment, 20 at a time is okay. Mostly they're open right now for 4 or 5 just to get the final funding. And then once we do that, close them down. There's still work to be done on 15 of them.
Very good.
Okay.
Thanks.
I just wanted to pass out a little bit of information about, we were talking about manager raises, and this just to put a little bit of history about how the managers' raises have fared against the raises for the labor unions over the years. And I think I already passed out the impact. Look at that to you again too. Since we were going to talk about budget, I bought this ruckus that I just in case we got to the manager raises. So I'll take a little time for to sell you on this project. That would be the impact, and this is the history.
Okay.
I know it looks like a bit of confusion with all the columns, but what it's doing is measuring the inflationary increases that have been built into the labor scales. And it compares the managers' pay scale to all the labor unions. So if you have any questions about that, just let me know. Okay, thank you.
Can we talk about the Sailors Beach resolution?
Yes. So there's 2 items on the agenda associated with Sailors Beach, 246 and 247. We did receive a grant in the 2023 CFA cycle for the feasibility study for Sailors Beach. We sent out also supporting documentation regarding the analysis of the bids that came back. We did get 3 bids back. One declined to provide a bid, and then we got 2 bids. We internally scored them. That was provided to council. This would be an authorization to award that bid, as well as create a capital project associated with the project.
I think people will be really excited to know that. Wanna. That,
Yep,
Nice
it's
reserve.
investing in our waterfront. You know, if we're gonna be the Lake City, let's invest in the lake.
right on the lake.
Furthermore, this was a grant cycle that was approved by council for application as well as acceptance. And now we're looking to implement the actual problem. Pretty standard board appointments, another grant award, accepting a grant award for the downtown technical assistance. Essentially, it's a Main Street program for a number of units that we're looking to partner with to improve. That's 241, 243, another grant award for NYSERDA improvements as part of the clean energy community high impact action points that we received based on the work that we've completed. $125,000 to go towards the purchase of EV vehicles. We talked about 244, talked about 245, 246 we've reviewed, and then 247 we've also reviewed. Any questions on those items?
Climate Task Force is excited about the EV.
Yep. Pretty important work.
Did we go over 241? And I was out of the room or something.
No, we just talked about that.
Did we?
That was a technical assistant. Alicia, if you want to talk a little bit about this too. Talk
Oh,
about
yeah, that's, I'm
the
sorry.
properties that we
Alicia, yeah.
identified. No, that's fine. Just the overall general understanding of the grant. So you all remember part of the DRI, there was a downtown grant program that allocated, I think, $150,000 for a number of units for second floor apartments and storefront facade improvements. Very successful program. Some of those applicants weren't going to make that round, so this is a quasi extension of that program. Not the same, but similar, where there's a number of apartment buildings downtown that are looking for some support for technical assistance, design, engineers, costs, for improvements, projected improvements. This money here will be applied to those. How many are there?
I think it's up to 4.
Four, yeah.
And this would help create the scope support to
Right.
go after
Right.
further funding.
So obviously, this is a pretty worthwhile program. Award, right? I mean, it's,
In my opinion, yes, it helps to continue our investment in downtown and update the facades and decrease the amount of underutilized properties downtown. So in that respect, yes, and as the mayor had pointed out, we have done a similar program through the DRI BGP, and we've seen the rewards of those, have received positive feedback on the facade updates downtown, and it just kind of reinvigorates the downtown area. So the DGP program is modeled after this New York Main Street program. The technical assistance portion of the program is the first phase in a series of potential grants the city could go after to assist property owners in the downtown to refurbish their buildings. And as you all look around, and I think everybody fairly well understands, the downtown is a real historic core. Even though it's not designated on the National Register. And as buildings age and reach this historic status, it's harder and harder to keep them up and adhere to building codes and fully utilize them.
There's some pretty rough looking facades down there. They're falling and it's.
Yeah, so programs like these are really instrumental and helpful for municipalities like us to assist the property owners who don't have the means and the community investment in the downtowns. And as we've seen in COVID, there's been a resurgence in the demand for walkable downtown areas. So I think it would be, in my mind, imperative for the city to move forward with something like this.
How many apartments do we impact with that? Do you remember?
Because I didn't work directly with that, I don't have
I
those
think
numbers.
I
readily
remember
available.
15 new units or something like this.
That sounds like in the right
Yeah.
ballpark. There were like 4 units in one building.
Yeah, exactly.
Couple.
Yep.
4 others over here,
Yep.
so.
Yep.
Yeah,
Some of these buildings are, I mean, in need of shape or in bad shape. They need a pick-me. For sure.
Yeah, grants like, look, grants like this contribute to that overall improvements to our downtown. And the more the city can accomplish and receive grants like this, the more we become successful where it comes to improving it.
are there any questions, any additional questions that I can answer for this?
I don't have any more questions. Thank you so much for explaining it.
Thank you. Fire, you got any departmental reports?
Submitted already.
Good. Building, anything? Joe, sit back there. No?
Typical.
Okay. Any other questions about agenda items? Budget? All right, motion to adjourn this work session. Counselor Talon, second by Counselor Bond, all in favor?
I
All right, we're gonna adjourn until 5:30, folks. We'll come back for the regular meeting.